There's something about revisiting a place from long ago that awakens memories you thought were gone. The stillness of a lakeside cabin, the whisper of pine branches in the wind, the damp scent of earth and weathered wood. It all pulls back, a version of yourself you thought time had buried. I hadn't set foot in Uncle Robert's cabin in more than 2 decades. As a teenager, I spent one whole summer there fishing, reading books, splitting firewood, and falling asleep to the sound of his old jazz records at night. Back then, it felt remote, like a world apart. I didn't value that simplicity, but now, in my 50s, I longed for it. So, when my mother called to say Uncle Robert had passed and left the cabin to me, it felt like life had handed me a rare escape from endless city cases and property disputes that consumed my days. I packed light, tossed a bag into the SUV, and drove the winding 3 hours through the mountains. It was early autumn, leaves turning shades of gold and red. The familiar crunch of gravel under my tires as I rolled into the driveway hit me like stepping back in time. The cabin was unchanged, sturdy and small, still carrying the faint smell of smoke and pine. With the key the estate lawyer sent me, I unlocked the front door, carried my bag inside, and paused to breathe it in. Uncle Robert's rocking chair still faced the fireplace. His bookcase still held the same dogged paperbacks. It felt as though he'd only stepped outside for a walk. That night, I lit a fire, poured myself some wine, and curled up with a book. By 10 o'clock I was fast asleep, lulled by crickets and the lapping of lake water. At 7 the next morning, I woke to violent pounding at the door, the kind that jolts your system before your mind can catch up. Half dressed and groggy, I stumbled to answer. On the porch stood a woman in her 50s, dressed like a CEO, holding a clipboard like it was a badge. "Who are you and what are you doing on this property?" she demanded, skipping pleasantries. I rubbed my face, trying to focus. "Daniel Morrison, this is my cabin. I inherited it from my uncle, and you are Linda Garrison, president of the Pine Ridge Estates Homeowners Association," she declared with pride. "And no one has approved new residents here. This cabin has been vacant since Robert Morrison died. Occupancy requires HOA approval, transfer fees, and background checks. I own this property," I replied evenly. "The deed and keys are inside." She waved her clipboard like a weapon. "That's not how things work here. Have you filed the HOA application, paid the $500 fee, completed orientation?" Leaning on the doorframe, I sighed. "Listen, Linda, I'm not a new resident. I inherited this cabin. I don't need HOA permission to stay in my own home." Her face flushed red. "How dare you speak to me that way? I've been president here for 12 years. I will not be disrespected." "I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm living on property I legally own. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need coffee." I began to close the door, but she shoved her foot inside. "This isn't over. If you stay, I'll call the police." With that, she stormed off, muttering threats. I brewed coffee and made a note to review Pine Ridge HOA bylaws later. The rest of the day passed quietly. I cleaned some of Uncle Robert's things, paddled his old kayak, and met a few neighbors, friendly folks who rolled their eyes when I mentioned Linda. "Oh, you met her?" Tom from 2 cabins down chuckled. "She once tried to fine me because my deck stain was the wrong shade. I had to show her the approved color chart with the can in hand." That evening, I grilled burgers, watched the sunset burn across the lake, and felt a peace I hadn't known in years. But then headlights appeared, in the driveway, 2 sets, flashing red and blue against the cabin walls. 2 officers approached, with Linda standing behind them, arms folded, a smug smile fixed on her face. "That's him," she snapped. "The trespasser. I told you," he broke in. "This property's been vacant for months." The lead officer, tall and graying, addressed me with professionalism. "Sir, we received a call about a burglary. May I see your ID?" I handed him my driver's license and my state compliance officer card. His partner searched the porch for signs of forced entry. There were none. The officer studied my ID, then glanced back at me, recognition flickering. He turned to Linda. "Ma'am, do you know who this is?" "I don't care who he says he is. He's trespassing." "Ma'am, this is Daniel Morrison, Senior Compliance Officer with the State Real Estate Commission." Her face drained of color. "Ma'am," he continued, "this man owns the property. HOA rules aren't criminal law. You reported a burglary that's serious, but he hasn't paid fees or filed applications. That's a civil matter, not police business." His partner cut in. "You called 911 and claimed an active brick." I stepped forward calmly. "Officers, I can show you the deed if necessary." "That won't be needed, Mr. Morrison. We know who you are. My captain attended your seminar last year. Then, to Linda, filing a false report is a crime. She looked like she'd swallowed something sour. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint. Back at the office, I reviewed Pine Ridge's HOA file. What I found confirmed everything: shady meetings, bogus fines, intimidation, all under Linda's rule. Within weeks, a formal audit exposed rigged board elections, financial irregularities, and harassment. The state commission demanded reforms. At the emergency HOA meeting 3 weeks later, residents who'd suffered under Linda finally had their say. The vote to remove her passed unanimously, except for her own. Tom, the neighbor with the deck stain, stood and said, "Linda, it's time to step aside." Security escorted her out, clutching her clipboard. She was fined $5,000, sentenced to community service, and left covering legal bills herself. 6 months later, I was invited to help draft new statewide HOA governance rules, the Morrison Protocols, to prevent abuses of power like hers. Now, I still visit the cabin often. Linda still walks her little dog past my porch, never waving, never speaking. Tom is board president, and the neighborhood feels lighter. Last week, a letter arrived addressed to me as the official overseeing the annual HOA compliance review, Poetic Justice. Linda once tried to push me out, but in the end, she ensured I'd be watching Pine Ridge Estates for years to come. And every time her pale face tightens at the mention of my name, it feels far more satisfying than $5,000 ever could.